Reflections, Unit 3, Chapter 6, The Middle Colonies. Pennsbury Manor in Morrisville, Pennsylvania. We're going to start with a story. Ben Franklin of Old Philadelphia. Before Ben Franklin was an inventor, a printer, and one of the nation's greatest leaders, he was a son of a Boston soap maker. At the age of 10, he was working with his father. Ben had little interest in soap making, but he did enjoy books. His father noticed this and managed for Ben to work with his half-brother, James, a printer. In the print shop, Ben helped write pamphlets, set type, and even sell newspapers on the street. After 3 years working for James, Ben decided to leave Boston. He traveled through New York and New Jersey looking for work, but he didn't have much luck. Nearly penniless and in need of a job, Ben arrived in one of the most exciting cities in all of the American colonies, Philadelphia. After his arrival, Ben found work with another printer. Read now about Ben's first days in Philadelphia. Ben Franklin worked at many things, and he was a good businessman, but he always thought of himself as a printer. He had come to Philadelphia to be a printer, and no other kind of work entered his head. After giving away his 2 extra rolls to an old lady and a boy who looked hungrier than he was, he followed the well-dressed crowds into the Philadelphia streets. It turned out that the crowd was going to the Quaker Meeting House. Ben went in and sat down to think, but he fell fast asleep. He didn't wake up until somebody tapped him on the shoulder and told him church was over. Deciding that he had better catch up with his sleep before looking for work, he rented a room and slept for a long time. Then he hunted up Andrew Bradford, who was William Bradford's son. "I just hired a hand." A helping hand, somebody who was going to help out. "I just hired a hand," Mr. Bradford said, and this made Ben very sad. It seemed to him he was always just missing the boat. "Maybe Samuel Keimer could use you. Maybe Samuel Keimer could use you," Mr. Bradford said, looking Ben over and liking what he saw. They went to see Mr. Keimer, another printer. "Neighbor," said Mr. Bradford to Samuel Keimer, "I have brought to see you a young man of your business. Perhaps you may want such a one." Mr. Keimer fingered his long beard and looked at Ben, whose looks had now been considerably improved by washing and clean clothes. He finally decided to give the boy a job, and Ben at last began to earn real wages. Money, a paycheck. During that first winter in Philadelphia, Benjamin had a wonderful time. He was a free man with money jingling in his pockets. His father wasn't telling him what to do, and his brother wasn't bullying him. At that time, Philadelphia was the largest town in the American colonies, bigger than Boston and New York put together, and its people were the best educated and the richest. While it was not much like a big city, as we think of big cities today, it was the city of the colonies. Though Boston was a huddle of weathered gray houses rising above the blue harbor, Philadelphia was a town of bright colors. Most of the shop fronts were painted red, blue, green, or yellow, and the big swinging signs in front of them were brilliant with paint and gilt, gold. The carriages that bounced over the muddy, rutted streets were also bright with paint. The people of Philadelphia wore bright colors and had a taste for fine clothes, although some of the Quakers still wore gray from head to foot. However, the rich Quakers followed the fashion and wore silks, satins, and velvets in all colors of the rainbow, along with wigs and jewelry. The ladies dressed in elaborate clothes too, and with their high hairdos they looked very pretty. Philadelphians loved to have company and parties. They enjoyed getting together to talk and sing and eat. They enjoyed getting together to talk and sing and eat. People had fewer places of amusement to visit in those days. There wasn't as much to do that was fun, so they stayed at home and did a lot of talking. Conversation was important. Ben Franklin loved to talk too, and he read so many books that he had a great deal to talk about. In Philadelphia, he met young people his own age who were interested in reading and in other things that he enjoyed. He began to make friends, something that was never very hard for Ben, and something that he continued to do until the end of his life. His boss, Mr. Kramer, arranged for him to have room and board at the house of Mr. Reed. So a place to sleep, right, and a place to get some meals, room and board. This man was the father of Deborah Reed, the girl who laughed to see young Franklin carrying his puffy rolls down the street. So began Ben's happy days in Philadelphia, the city that was to become his real hometown for the rest of his life, though he was to live all over the world. Why did Ben Franklin travel to Philadelphia? What made Philadelphia different from the other colonial cities? And why do you think Philadelphia would be an exciting place for young Ben Franklin?